Life is precious, and we all have the opportunity of living it to the fullest. Unfortunately, so few of us know how to manage it all. How do we account for our opportunities? How do we account for our time? How do we account for our relationships, health, spirituality, homes, finances, influence, and careers? How do we account for the one life we have to live? I am so glad you asked. In this program, you will find answers to all of these questions and more. Welcome to the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore.
Hey, what's happening? What's happening, everybody? I want to welcome you back to another episode of the Account for Your Life podcast. Jay Moore here, the healthy accountant, helping you to account for your life. Guys, what an awesome and incredible day, man. I'm just super excited. And here's what we're excited about today. We're excited about this topic, how to cultivate your gifts, guys. Even if you don't know what it is, even if you don't understand where you're going, I'm going to share with you, just kind of going back into my past. I'm going to share with you how my personal gifts have been cultivated over the years, and I didn't even really know it. So let's jump right into this. So I was sitting here thinking about gifts, right? Because last week I said I'm going to talk about gifts, and I'm going to because I think giftedness is something that many people do not like. Most people don't say, you know what, I'm gifted. When you're gifted, everyone is gifted, right? And so I've been looking over, I looked at spiritual gifts, and I know what my spiritual gift is. Do you know what your spiritual gift is? See, your spiritual gift could be a little bit different than your physical gift, because we all get physical gifts. Spiritual gifts have to, like both, all gifts have to be cultivated. It's just that spiritual gifts, you could potentially never know what that is. Some people just never know what their spiritual gift is, but they may know what their giftedness is. And so I was thinking about myself and kind of like where I came from, where I grew up. Last week I went back on Google and went to my two houses in New Jersey, that I live with my parents, and I was showing those pictures, I was showing those neighborhoods to my kids, to my wife, and I was like, hey man, this is where I lived. Wow, that's the house, and we lived on the first floor in that house. That house was a 2-family house. We lived on the first floor, there was only 2 bedrooms. Then this house, there was, I think we wound up having 3 bedrooms, but I think my parents wound up converting the living room into their bedroom and made it 4 bedrooms. So we wound up having 4 bedrooms, and technically, but then the dining room became the living room, dining room, and we had a kitchen and a bathroom, and that's pretty much it. So that's where we lived, and I'm sitting here thinking about, growing up around that, and how I'm being shaped. See, here's what's interesting. God uses everything. I want you to write that down. God uses everything, which means that it doesn't matter where we come from, because God can. Didn't God create the heavens and the earth? Didn't God form man with his hands? Then God can do whatever he decides to do with whatever matter he has. He takes everything that we've been given and he shapes it into what it is that he desires for us. So I thought about it, and I looked at these homes. I says, wow, look, I live there. The environments, like those environments were not safe. I didn't live in a safe environment. There was drug dealing, and there was fighting, and back then it wasn't as much killing, but there was stealing, and there was all sorts of things happening in the neighborhood, and that's where we lived. And all the while, my gifts being cultivated. I can think back to one day I was looking in the mirror. Wow, it's so interesting how you can literally see things. I was looking in the mirror. Check this out. This is when we were at our first house. Was it the first or the second? No, it was the second house. So I'm between grades 4, I think grades 4 and grade 8. And so I remember looking in the mirror, and I'm in the mirror and I'm looking at myself, and we would get haircuts, but some days I'd be like, man, man, I need a haircut. And I remember looking in the mirror, seeing my dad's razor, whoever razor was in there, and I just took the razor and I started kind of like giving myself an edge up. I didn't know what I was doing, and I kind of did it. But do you know, a few years later, I'm cutting hair. A few years later, I picked up a clipper and says, I can do that. Which, think about this. I want you to think about something. The moment you're able to do something, you know you can do something, but yet no one's ever taught you. Like, I can imagine a kid that just sits down at the piano and says, man, I can play the piano. And they start playing and they become this prodigy. I guess in this regard, I would say to myself, man, I was somewhat of a prodigy when it came to picking up a clipper. And I started to cut hair without someone teaching me. No one says, hey, this is how you cut this hair. This is how you do this style and that kind of style. I just realized that, hey, I can do it. Why did I decide I can do it? Well, I sat in a barber chair for the past, 13 years. I was getting my hair cut. I was 13 at the time when I picked up the clippers. Now, I'm not telling you that that's my gift, right? But that's a part of the gifts, right? See, because what God does, because God hides it, doesn't He hide it? God hides who you are inside of you. He hides you in there, and because He really wants you to desire who He is. He doesn't want to give you everything up front. He would like for us, God's like, man, if they would just search me with all their hearts. If they would just really come after me, then I can show them even more. So back then, here it is, I'm learning how to cut hair because I just knew I can do it, never getting taught, never having to go to school. Professional. I'm a professional barber to this day. I will never, that skill has been burned into my brain. As kids, my kids have never been to the barber shop. And, it's weird because I'm like, at some point, I ain't gonna be cutting. I'm cutting my son's hair on Saturday because he says, Dad, when you come see me, hey, can you bring your clippers with you? And I'm like, well, at some point, I'm not gonna be cutting hair. I'm gonna have to take him to the barber shop. I'm gonna say, look, you need to go to the barber shop. I'm gonna take him to the barber shop and say, look, like, that's so weird, but let me get back to my story. So here it is. We're cultivating a gift, right? We're cultivating skills. We're cultivating how we operate. And so now, as I'm kind of like pressing forward and we're moving into, where I am today. Something as simple as picking up a clipper, something as simple as picking up a razor is an indication of a bigger gift. It's an indication of a bigger gift. It's an indication that one, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Absolutely. It's an also indication that God can do far more than I can imagine or than I can ask for or imagine through the power which worketh in me. It's an indication that my gift maketh room for me and brings me before great men. It's an indication that when God thought about you, He says, man, I'm gonna pack you with so much that if you find it, you'll glorify my name. If you find it, you'll decide that you would, go to the mountaintops and you'll tell people about me. If you find it, you'll say to yourself, wow, if He can do this with me, then I know He can do this with other people. And here it is. I'm 50 years old. And I'm saying to myself, I'm like, man, God has gifted me with an amazing gift. God has gifted me with this power to communicate. He's gifted me the power to discern. God has gifted me with the power to see things, even though I can't see it, right? And what do you mean by that, Jay? Even though you don't have all the steps. It's kind of like I didn't have the steps when I decided I'd do a podcast today. I just knew that I had something to say and I knew God wanted it to be said. So I said, God, tell me, just let it out from me. Last night, as I went into my closet and was talking to God and, talking about some things that's going on in my life. And Looking back, have you ever looked back on your life and said, man, I wish I could have done better there. I wish I could have made a better decision. But you know what? Just because I made a bad decision back then doesn't mean anything. Like today just means that you can move forward. You can believe a different thing. See, as we close it, I want you to think about your gift. I want you to think about things that you've taken for granted. I want you to think about the inherent things. It could be your voice. It could be your walk. It could be how you talk. It could be how your face looks. It could be the smile that you have. Yes, it could be the eyes that you have. It could be the way that you move your hands. It could be the way that your hair is. You never know. It could be anything. See, God has gifted us with inherent gifts. And one of the gifts I know that he gave me is the gift of persuasion. He's given me that. How did he give me the gift of persuasion? I'm not talking about the gift of persuasion in selling. I'm talking about the gift of persuasion in authenticity. Meaning, just like E.T. said, there's something about his voice. His voice is his gift. It's not the content. See, the content had to be developed. But his voice is his gift. The way that he talks, right? The way that he talks, once he talks, it's like boom. Once E.T. talks, it's almost like, whoa, like he had to be a speaker. And then it's almost like, so I say the gift of persuasion, it's that gift that, hey, it's authentic when it comes out of my mouth because it feels right. And I can't learn that through sales. See, there's obviously ways that you can learn how to sell, and there's ways how to learn how to persuasion. But here's the thing: when God gives you something, then it's just you. So what that means is you then have to put yourself in the right opportunities. You have to put yourself in the right environments. You have to put yourself just in the right position to use your gift so that it becomes so that it actually can become more than what it is. So it's kind of like being an accountant, being a trusted advisor. There has to be a persuasiveness about being trusted. Like, it's just automatic. It's like when I talk to people that says, man, you know what, I can talk to you. Man, and it's weird, like people tend to share more things with accountants. Well, especially with me, I learned so much about people. Like, they tell me so much about it. It's almost like they would never talk about this. The first conversation, they want to tell you everything. It's almost like you're a psychologist or not psychiatrist, but psychologist, someone who does that for a living, when that's part of who I am, I know. So how is it that I chose that field? It's interesting, right? But here's the thing. When God places the gift in you, he places a lot of promptings in there as well. And all those promptings have to lead you to where it is he's taking you anyway. So even though I chose to be an accountant, but no, God set it up. He says, yeah, it's his choice, but I chose. And all of a sudden, my gift shows up and it's needed right there. And it's like, whoa, how did I manage to choose that? And that's exactly what I needed. So here it is. You got the Account for Life podcast. The Account for Life podcast has nothing to do with the original gift, but does it? Think about it. It does. So guys, I just want you to think about something. You cultivate your gifts a lot of times by not really knowing, right? You don't even know. You don't always know what your gift is, but you cultivate it along the way by making choices, making decisions, picking things that you're doing. And what happens is, even though God does not force us down the path, but he's created a path for us. And today, God's created a path for you with your gift that can help your life, take your life to new levels, that can help you to become more of who you are, so that you can not just be the person that can do all this stuff, but you will actually have the things that, come on, man, everybody wants to have more. So write down today, all the inherent things that are natural to you. And I'm going to tell you, inside of those inherent things, you'll find your gift, even if you didn't know it. Then once you find it, guys, go cultivate it, go work on it, go read books, go study, go do as much as you can so that you can actually take that gift to a new level. Guys, I thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Account for Life podcast, How to Cultivate Your Gifts. I'm Jay Moore, the Healthy Accountant, helping you to account for your life. God bless. I'll see you on the next episode. Peace.
Thanks for joining us, listening friends. We are so glad you invested this time with us. Always remember, you only have one life to live, so live it to the fullest. This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it a great day.